Welcome everyone. My name is Jawad Saadi and I'm the Managing Director of Hexatronic Security and Surveillance. I welcome you today and I'm extremely excited to see this many people attending this webinar. Also, I would like to introduce my colleague, Per Foss. Per, can you please introduce yourself?
Ja, hei, jeg heter Per Foss. Jeg produktsjef her I Hexatronic I Norge. Hyggelig at så mange kunne være med på dette webinaret. Nå skal vi lære mer om hybridløsning og nettverk for fiber og power. Dette et nytt konsept for oss, og vi gleder oss. Så, Javad, setting over til
Thank you, Per. Thank you. Before we start, please feel free to post your questions in the Zoom Q&A. We will answer the questions in the end of the webinar. Feel free to post your questions in English or in Norwegian. Per will help me with the Norwegian. So without any further ado, let's start with our presentations. This is what we're going to cover today. This is the introduction, then I'm going to go into some slides. I will try to be brief and let any more explanations come in the Q&A sessions. Then we're going to have a hands-on demo to show you the product by itself. Then we're going to talk about the savings item. We're going to talk about a success story called Ayla, how to partner with us, and then we go to the Q&A session. So let's start with Hexatronic. Our company, Hexatronic Security and Surveillance, is a new company within the Hexatronic group that is focused purely on the InOne solution. Many of you know the Hexatronic group and you have interaction with Hexatronic Norway, and we're a group of over 20 companies now, and it's amazing growth in terms of our business and in addition of new companies. The background of the InOne solution is the issue with connecting devices. As you all know, Power over Ethernet, PoE, has been a standard for the past 15-20 years, and it's an amazing standard. Many vendors around the world is actually fixed on PoE, and the standard have developed throughout the years. It started with 15 watts, then 30 watts, 50 watts, and now with the PoE++, we can have up to 95 watts. But the distance did not increase, and it will not increase because that's a limitation of the Ethernet interface. Although there are some extenders, but they are limited to a few hundred meters. But what about if you want your devices be connected way away from the core network, kilometers distance? Then we have a solution for that we call the InOne. And the reason we call it the InOne because it's both power and fiber in one solution. And we're going to talk more about that. In the InOne, what we do, that we have in the central point in your data center, we call the hybrid distribution node, where we combine both the power and the fiber into one cable. And this is an example of the cable. And then we drive it in the network. And when we're close to the devices, then we have a hybrid access point. And in this hybrid access node, then we separate the power and the fiber and feed the industrial switch that will feed the devices. Let's take one component at a time. In the data center, there is the hybrid distribution node where we convert the AC power to DC. And the reason we do that, because the DC is much easier for distribution. This is why we can put them in a compact cable. If I show you an example of what an AC cable look like, this is a ducted cable, and this is a direct burial cable. So you need large cable diameter if you're going to use AC. We use 110 volts, that's the European safety standard, maximum of 110 volts, 10 amps. Then we enter both the power and the fiber into the hybrid ODF, and we connect the InOne cable where we join both. These are the power leads and these are the fiber leads. And we push that into the network until we reach the hybrid access node. And in the hybrid access node, now it's time to separate the power and the fiber, to feed the industrial switch, and the industrial switch have PoE++, ports to feed the devices. And we have a wide variety of industrial switches. You can put your own industrial switches, and we can support up to PoE++, which is 90-95 watts per port. This cable, we have different variances of the cable with different copper diameters and different fiber. We also have a variance. This is a fire-rated variant, and we can send you more details. I will not spend time on discussing the specific details. Being part of the Hexatronic group of companies, we rely on the bigger Hexatronic portfolio with ducts, and we use the same cable, but we vary the duct based on the implementation. And here I have some examples of ducts. This is a direct burial duct. This is 2 of them in one assembly, 4 of them. And if you need to install aerial, this is an aerial duct. And we also have an armored duct in case you want, you need the armored ducts, or you want to have an installation underwater. So we don't need to change the cable. We vary the duct, and we use the same InOne hybrid cable. The beauty of the InOne solution that it does not specify any network topology. We follow any network topology that you have, whether your devices are connected in a bus, in a cascade, in a star topology, in any kind of a topology. The InOne solution will follow your network topology, and this is a great savings item as well. Now, one of the most common questions that we get, how far can we put the devices? And that's a very interesting question. If you remember, I mentioned that we're limited by the European safety standard of 110 volts and 10 amps. Let's call that our power budget. Now, depending on the distances, the load, the number of devices, the network topology, you will need to make a calculation to see how far you can put the devices, or how many devices you can have. For that, what we have done a design software that you enter all of these parameters, and it will give you your power budget, how much redundant power you have, if you can add more devices, add more distances. So this is a great tool because you don't need to have any external consultants doing those calculations for you. We can have the software, the InOne design software, do all of these calculations. This is an interesting slide. In a typical, let's take one of the applications of the InOne, CCTV cameras, for example. If you look at the graph on the left, this is a traditional installation where you have power and fiber cables in 2 separate civil networks. Then you have some edge switches, the CCTV cameras, and then some kind of a software. If you implement the InOne, you will do a huge saving on the civil infrastructure, because instead of having 2 networks, one for the power with AC power cables, as we showed before, with AC cables, and you probably need to put them in ducts. You can have the InOne cable instead of both, one civil work for the fiber optic and one civil work for the power. And if you use our ducts, you can, if you have your ducts, you can use your existing ducts, but if you use our ducts, this is all you need to put for both the power and the fiber. So let us summarize the benefits of the InOne solution. We have big claims for the savings. We claim 50 to 70% saving on the civil infrastructure, including the cabling. If you say that you have 2 excavations, one for the power and one for the fiber, that's an immediate 50% saving in the civil work. If you take away the power cables, that's also additional saving. But it's not only saving. Yes, you remove the AC power cables, but you get far more flexibility, and we're going to talk more about that when we talk about the applications. Faster speeds of deployment. Why? Because you have much less civil work. You're using the blowing the cables inside the ducts, like the normal fiber optic cables. The hybrid cables can be also blown inside existing ducts or our own Hexatronic ducts. So that's a great amount of savings when you are able to blow everything and you do one civil network instead of 2. Then another important point is security. When we first started promoting the InOne solution, we thought that the InOne application is so good when you don't have power, when you have not, and you need to put a new power and civil work. So you do lots of savings when you don't need to do the AC power civil work. But when we started meeting the customers, there are many customers that have power, but if the application, like in CCTV, let's use the same example again, if the power is used by somebody else, then it is not secure. So it is somebody else's power. So why don't you rely on your own power for security reasons? And if you're going to deploy fiber optic cables, then you might as well just change the fiber optic cable, the standard cable, with the InOne cable, and supply both the power and the fiber in the same implementation. So that makes a great sense. So it's a security that it is not that you don't have power, it is not your power. You don't want the light system technician to be able to shut down the electricity on the cameras if it's a critical application. Then redundancy, which is extremely important. First of all, if you connect your devices in a ring topology, and then you have a cable cut at any point, as you all know, in fiber optics, you can supply the data from the other side. But because of the InOne system, because it's a DC power, then you can connect the DC power from both sides. And if there is a cable cut, you feed all the devices before the cut from one side of the network, and you feed all the other devices after the cut from the other side of the ring. So you supply both the power and the fiber in a ring topology. So this is one form of redundancy. The other form of redundancy, that in a traditional installation, if you want power failure redundancy, you need to put UPSs next to the devices. If you need UPSs that are IP65 compliant, external UPSs, you need a double-walled cabinets, you need more expensive UPSs. In our case, we don't put the UPSs next to the devices. We put one UPS instead of many UPSs in the data center that will give redundancy for the whole network. So that's an amazing saving item as well. Last but not least is the flexibility. Because we support all network topologies, then you can change your network at any time. So maybe you have a ring topology, at one time you want to add more devices, you can open the ring and add more devices. You can branch out from the ring. If due to restrictions in your site, you have to take a certain routes, then you follow the routes that you need to do. And the InOne will support any network topology. So these are the 5 benefits. I'll give you briefly what we have coming in the portfolio. Now we're testing with a new cable that is double the surface diameter of the copper, which will double the distances that we have. We're also adding more power into the InOne cabinets, up to 400 watts per each cabinet. And we're also testing with some quick connectors. I have a sample here. This is a quick connector that we're going to develop for quick installation and for tactical application. It's going to be like this sample, plastic, and they're going to be ruggedized with metal for more tactical applications. So let's look at applications. I talked a lot about this security, and yes, most of our customers are we see lots of tractions. Most of our opportunities that we have today is in security projects. We have partnered also with Access, so now we're an Access technology partner, and we're speaking to all other security vendors like Bosch Security, Flare, other vendors as well. And that's we make most feasibility in perimeter security, in border control, city surveillance, industrial complexes, construction sites. These are the kind of examples where the InOne makes a lot of sense, let's say. Another application is public Wi-Fi. When you want to install public Wi-Fi for service providers that want to install public Wi-Fi, the InOne makes a lot of sense to do that. So you connect the access points both with power and fiber. Also now we have a new project with microwave with the Ericsson Minilink. I think many of you is familiar with the Ericsson Minilink. And the two radios that this customer has, one of them had 58 watts and the other one is 28 watts. For the one that is 58 watts, we were able to connect it up to two radios up to 3.5 kilometers. And that's amazing, because with radio, when you have a good radio site, usually it's on top of a hill or in a good location from a topographic point of view. And this is where you don't have power. So if you can supply both the power and the fiber with one cable, that's an amazing application as well. Also, we're discussing with a customer in Norway and with other customers for FTTH customers, where in the left side of the drawing, they connect the homes like normal with the FTTH application. But then it is the last homes, each one of them is a couple of kilometers away, where maybe the fiber is not feasible to deploy, and you want to deploy some wireless connection to the last homes. And then you use like point-to-multipoint technology. We can do that. We can also support DAS, distributed antenna systems. This is another application, and I picked also another application from Norway. This is from the salmon fish farms, where they don't have good radio connectivity on the float, and they have lots of devices that needs to be connected. So we have designed the hybrid distribution node on the float and the hybrid access node on the land. So they have very good radio connectivity on a stable land radio connection. And then we're using the armored duct for underwater installation. As you all know, IoT is a very big applications, and in IoT, the type of devices is unlimited. There is so much variety in different devices. So you can connect them, whether they are 5G nano stations, or they are public Wi-Fi, LoRaWAN base stations, air quality sensors, CCTV. Also in rural areas, we're speaking to a system integrator where they want to install LoRaWAN in northern Sweden to monitor the movement of reindeer. So the part we're involved in is to provide the connectivity, fiber and power connectivity for the LoRaWAN base stations. This is an example from an FTTH service provider. Actually, we received the inquiry from their installer. And this service provider, they connect fiber to the home as usual, and they're using GPON, so they connect ONT to the home. And that's done in a typical way, like everybody is doing it. But then the municipalities in these areas are asking this service provider to provide them with connection ports in public areas. In one of these cases, there is a retirement village, and they want to put CCTV cameras, and they want to put nurse call system. So they're using the InOne to connect those ONTs that provide powered ports, and what they are providing to the end user is a service which is power ports over VLAN. So they give them a VLAN where the customer can connect all their devices, and they have power ports, so they give PoE ports, and that's the product that the service provider is selling. Also, we received a couple of inquiries, one of them from the UK and the other in the Middle East, how we work with solar. And when we looked exactly with what the customers how the customers are using solar, the example in the Middle East, it's a defense customer, and they have what you see in the bottom side of the slide, where they have poles, and on each pole they have a solar cell, they have a UPS with batteries, they have the camera, and they have a radio link. And then they repeat all this installation on every single pole. So we discussed with the customer that why don't we consolidate all these solar cells to reduce the maintenance and to reduce the cost. consolidate all the UPSs and consolidate all the radio links to one, then you have much less points of failure. You do lots of saving, and then you distribute all of that using the InOne. So these are some applications. Actually, the more we're working with the market, the more we get more applications. Some of our customers, after they have got their first experience with the InOne, then they design their own solutions, and some of them where they have very special applications, they don't share with us what devices or in which application they are using, but they trust the solution enough that they're using it for all kind of devices. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna switch the camera and show you a little bit some hands-on, and during the Q&A, if you want me to go into any more details, please go ahead and ask me. Go ahead and put in, if you have any questions, you can start putting the questions now and we'll come to it in the end. I see that there is some questions already coming in. This is the hybrid distribution node. This could be in a street cabinet or could be inside your data center. And here, this is we change the AC to DC. It's a voltage rectifier. And the output here is 110 volts DC. We take that output and we bring it into the hybrid ODF. We also have the fiber going to the hybrid ODF. And then we have the InOne cable out. And to give you a little bit more a view on this, this is where the DC cable is coming, and this is where the power cable is coming. There is a protection circuit here for the power. And then we loop the fiber here, and they're both combined into the InOne cable. And here we have the InOne cable exiting. So from the hybrid distribution node, now we have the cable running through the network. And imagine that this is a few kilometers away until we reach the other side. And this is where the devices are connected. And here we have the InOne hybrid access nodes. We have two cabinets, a bigger one and a smaller one. Functionally, they are both identical. Let me open one of these. Here you see there is one InOne cable coming in and two cables going out to the cabinets that is after in the network. Let me try to bring you a little bit closer so you can see better. Here is the InOne cable. Now we're separating the power from the fiber. The fiber is coming to the cassette and then feeding the industrial switch. The power is entering this protection circuit, and behind this plate there is a DC to DC voltage rectifier that regulates whatever voltage we have, whatever voltage level we have. So if we're a few hundred meters away, we started with 110 volts. Maybe now we're at 90 volts. So we have a voltage regulator here. We will regulate this to 48 volts or 56 volts. And if I get you a little bit further closer, you see here that I have a jumper to change the voltage. And the voltage rectifier is behind this. And then we feed the voltage to the switch. On this side, we have the Cat6 cables, and here you can have a different kind of switch. In this example, we have a ComNet. We can have a Corinex switch, a thermo switch, a Cisco switch. I mean, depending on your requirements. We need to make sure that the switch fits in this cabinet, and we have the right mounting kits. We have different mounting kits for different switches. Then you connect the devices. Your devices could be some kind of a camera or an access point, and we have seen so many different devices being connected. And then we have the InOne cable connecting the smaller cabinet, and you see here that the smaller cabinet is identical, but this one, it fits only a small switch or a media converter. All right, this a little bit about the demo. Please note that you can, from our website, hexatronic.com/InOne, you can book an appointment in this demo room so we can have a more detailed sessions with you at any time. So let's now share a customer example. And this is quite an interesting example. This is a project called Isla. It is in the Red Sea, quite a hot climate. So we have tested the InOne also not only in the cold weather, like here in the Nordics, but also in extremely hot weather. The site is a gated community. It's a smart city with hotels, golf club, residences, beach clubs. The total size of the project is 4.4 million square meters. It is 8 kilometers perimeter. What's so special about the perimeter security, that there is an international border with Israel right on the fence of this project, and one of the sites has the city airport. So the security was extremely important, and we started with the customer, and when we showed them the proof of concept, they realized the amount of savings that they will do. It was in the multiples of $100 US in savings, and the customer bought their first phase 2 years ago. This is the single line diagram design. You can look at the scope of work. In phase 1, it was 128 cameras, 114 cameras, normal cameras, and 14 PTZ cameras. In this project, it was access cameras. The first phase was totally 9 InOne systems with 48 InOne cabinets, around 10,000 meters of cable. Then the year after, it was phase 2, where they added 42 cameras, 2 InOne systems, 12 cabinets, and 5,000 more meters of cable. And there is a phase that is planned for later this year. This is a picture from the side. You can see now the cabinet, one of them installed on a wall and the other one installed on a pole where the cameras are connected. Also, this customer will add public Wi-Fi to the same network. Let me remove myself. From a customer perspective, they wanted a perimeter security on the wall that had AC power, but it was used for the lights and it was not secure. So they wanted an independent power with redundancy. Their critical factors: cost, of course, speed of deployment, and because the installation of the cameras became after the project was ready, they wanted minimal disruption to roads, pavements, landscaping, everything. Everything was ready. So putting one small civil infrastructure was actually extremely welcomed by the customer. So what was the difference? What we added, of course, the InOne solution with the InOne cabinets. We also added the InOne cable, but what we removed the civil work for the power. We removed the power cables, the external circuit breakers, the power sockets, 48 external UPSs. We replaced it with one indoor UPS. The edge switches and the PSUs and the outdoor cabinets, they were not needed because the InOne comes with a switch inside its own cabinet. The first phase was completed in 6 weeks. So this was an extremely successful project. And last, how you can work with us. We have a partner program for the InOne solution. So there are 3 easy steps. You just register with us, get some sales training, and order your reference system, and then you get access to all the partner benefits, which are that we do project design. We actually do the design for you. Give us the input parameters, and we will do design for you. We share leads with you. So if we get any leads directly to us, we feed them to our partners in the market. We give customers that bring in leads, we give them protection on their leads. They get prioritized support. Of course, the partner pricing. We do shared marketing, and you get access to this online showroom. So when you're going out to the customer presenting the solution, we can go out with you, connect from this demo room, and make presentations. So the design service, this is what we get from you. Here are examples of some customer inputs that we received, whether it's an AutoCAD or some kind of render of the project, or just Google Earth with pins where where are the locations of the poles where you have the cameras or the devices. And this is what you get back in design from us. You get a single line diagram. We show how everything is connected. We give you extract of our power calculation tool, how we have calculated all the power. We give you all the power distribution, how much wattage is used in every cabinet, so you're aware of that. A bill of material with pricing, of course. And some solution write-up. And in the solution write-up, then we can give redundancy options. What are the expansion capacity? What are the savings that were achieved or can be achieved? If we have done any assumptions, then we put the design assumptions, suggested optimization, and upon the customer approval, then we can do AutoCAD drawings so they can use in the implementation. So I think this concludes. I can see that are some questions already arriving. If you have any more questions, please feel free to post them right now. All right, so let me bring this here. I'll bring Per in. Hello, Per.
Hello.
Yes, let's see the first question. This question from Jan. It says, what type of switches can we use? From an InOne perspective, you can use any switch. There is only two conditions: that it fits inside the cabinet and we can manage the heat. What maybe I have not mentioned earlier, that the InOne cabinet is made of cast aluminum, and all the components that we are using inside, they are solid state with no moving parts. They are industrial components, including the DC to DC voltage regulator. And we use the cabinet itself for heat dissipation because there are no fans, there is no moving parts. The cabinet itself is IP65 approved. So we have to dissipate everything through the cabinet because it's made of cast aluminum. So two things we need to make sure: if you have if you don't want to source the switch from us, where we have tested the heat dissipation and the fit. If you want to use your own switch, we have to just verify that it fits inside the cabinet and to look at the heat dissipation figures, so we can make sure that we can dissipate all that heat. The more we're working with more switches. We're making mounting kits for different switches. So you need to check with us if we already have a mounting kit for the switch that you want to use, or whether we need to make something special for you. And that is also possible. Next one, can you take that, Per, please?
We have units with SFP. How can we cobble them in?
That's a good question. Let me move the camera here. Okay, here is the InOne cabinet. In this case, if you have the question is that if you have a device that has an SFP, how can we connect that? If you have a device that has an SFP, what you need, you can take the small cabinet. You don't need the big cabinet. You don't need to use the media converter. So you get the power out from the fiber cassette, exiting the cabinet, connected to your SFP. And here we have the different voltage outputs. So we can provide 48 volts or 56 volts. Today we can provide that. And then you connect it to your device. So many of our customers have a requirement like that. If I haven't answered any of your questions the way you want, please feel free to post them again. Another one for you.
Do you need a special tools to install InOne?
Okay, the InOne actually, it's two systems. It's a power system and it's a fiber system. From a deployment point of view, installing the ducts, blowing the cable, it's Anybody that have done fiber blowing or fiber installation, whether you blow it in microducts or whether you pull the cable in existing ducts, it's like handling every other cable. The cable itself, I had a sample with me here. It has a tensioning member, you can see here. So it's quite stiff. It's very good for blowing. And because it has the tensioning member, it can also be pulled inside traditional ducts. Splicing the fiber is the same. You splice it like every other fiber. It's a normal fiber. So from a fiber point of view, cabling, blowing, it's the same as other fiber cables. The fiber splicing is the same. Now it is the power connection. The power connection depends from one country to the other, depending on the regulator. Most of the European countries, they do not require a certified electrician to connect DC power. It's considered as telecom equipment and normal telecom technician, but we need to double check what is the regulations in Norway. Maybe you know that already. But it's a simple job from a technical point of view. Now, whether you need a certification or not, that is dependent on the local environment. Thanks for the presentation. Yes, we will share the slides. When I'm done with the presentation, you will get an email by the end of today. It will have a copy of the slides and it will have a recording of the webinar as well. Can you please explain the power budget? Okay, the concept of the power budget, this is from a fiber point of view, we have no worries. I mean, we'll never run out of fibers or distance with the InOne solution. We will have a limitation with the power before we have a limitation with the fiber. In the InOne, we start with the 110 volts DC in the data center and 10 amps. Then when we just have the wire running, you will have some losses due to the resistance in the cable. Now we have different diameters of cable. So if you have the bigger diameter, you have less resistance and you will have less voltage drop. And then you have the first cabinet and you connect the cabinet, the connection itself, and the industrial switch inside that cabinet will take around 5 watts. And then you connect the devices to that. And depending, I mean, yesterday we were pricing a project that they were using high vision cameras. They're, I think, like 7 watts each. We have seen access cameras with 85 watts when they have heaters and PTZ and IR all at the same time. In some military applications with some high-end cameras, there is power that is needed up to 280 watts. There are also some cameras that are using less voltage than 48, and in the end of this year we're going to have a product for that as well. To go back to the power calculation and power budget, so you have the different power loads. So we have to make that calculation. So every time it's a design job, we have to do the design. For the ones of you that will work with us as a partner, you can get the software, the design software, and you can do the design yourself after you get some training. So the parameters you need to vary. The starting voltage is always the same. It's 110 volts DC and 10 amps. That's around 1000 watts. Then how much wattage you lose due to the cable distance, and then the devices. So how many devices you can put? You have 1000 watts. So if you have two 300 watt devices, you're using 600 watts, then you're losing maybe 200 watts due to the distance. This is what you're going to use. If you're using bullet cameras with 10 watts each, then you can have tens and tens of cameras connected. And if the distances are longer, then it is less cameras. But we're always improving. We're adding bigger cables and we're adding more power to each one of the InOne cabinets. So this is the power budget is always a design issue. So I hope I have answered that question. Next one. if we already have the ducts, will we still have something? Yeah, yes. If you have the ducts, then you don't have any new investment in putting the ducts and the civil work in excavation, backfilling, reinstatement, all of that. But you save on the AC power cable. Always, I always like to use this example. This is a direct buried AC cable. If you have distances in hundreds of meters or a couple of kilometers, this is the kind of diameter that you have. If you put it inside ducts, then you don't need the armoring. You can have this kind of a cable. So I mean, if you look only at the amount of copper, if you replace any of these two with the InOne cable, that's a big saving as well. Even if you have the ducts already, even if you have the civil work already done. I mean, there is significant cost in the AC cable, and that's a big saving as well. Thank you for the question. Can you support underwater installation? Is the cable armored? No, the cable is not armored. What we have an armored duct. Okay, and then we put the InOne cable inside it, so the protection. And in the example that I showed with the sea farm, this is the kind of duct they're using. They're using one that is a little bit smaller, but this is the kind of, so if you have it under lakes or under rivers in the sea up to a certain depth, you can use these kind of ducts. But the cable inside is the same. All right, Patrick, how do you calculate the cost of the fiber blowing machine, fiber splicer, and measurement for the fiber if you are an installer that don't work with fiber installation today? I think Per can answer this question better than me. I mean, many of the fiber installation companies do have these, so but if you want to invest in those, Hexatronic Norway, actually, they do provide fiber blowing equipment, and the Hexatronic, we have training as well. But Per, you want to speak more about that? I think Per is frozen. The picture is frozen, not him frozen. Let me see if there is a quick fix I can do. Okay, I can see that the call is disconnected, but we're going to come back to you about this one. Per will be able to take that with you. Per, if you hear me in any other media, try to connect again, and we can come back to this question. All right, I also see, let me see, how secure is the fiber? Can you please, Per, you're back.
I'm back again.
Thank you. Okay, all right. There was a question that Patrick is asking about how they can calculate the cost of the fiber blowing machine. And Hexatronic Norway, you supply that, so can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
We can do that.
You can take it in Norwegian if you like.
Ja, vi kan jo se på det etter møtet, spesielt.
So you will take that later?
We can help with that after the meeting.
All right, perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How secure is the fiber? There's nothing special about the fiber cable itself than a traditional fiber. We can have different kinds of fiber. I'm not so sure I understand what aspects of security. From one sense, security with the InOne solution that we can have the redundancy in creating the rings and putting the UPSs. But anything else you'd like to add, Per, on this one?
No, I think it's good.
Yeah, okay. Usama, are the InOne cabinets can work in high temperature? What is the maximum it can handle? I can show you something here. Let me move the camera here. when we worked with projects in the Middle East, we just wanted to be sure. So this is the InOne cabinet that we said that it can be used. We have done this sun shield that can be installed. Yeah, I have it correctly. Can be installed on top of the cabinets to take away the direct sunshine from the cabinet. When we measured in the Aqaba installation, this cover, the sun shield, have decreased the ambient temperature inside the cabinet by 10-12 degrees. The maximum, when the last summer we had a maximum temperature of 49 degrees, the temperature inside the cabinet was in the up 70s, almost 80 degrees ambient, and that we had full performance in the voltage regulators and in the switches that you have. If you're going to select a different switch, you need to check the specs of the switch as well. But with the sites that we have in the Middle East, we had absolutely no problem with the heat. Good question. Does the power redundancy need another route, or is it in the same cable? There is two types of redundancy. There is redundancy against cable cut. So if you have a redundancy against cable cut, then it is better that you have another route, and it is in a ring topology, so you close the ring. Now, it doesn't have to be circular ring. It has to be a functional ring that you have a separate route for the cable. If you're talking about power failure, then the UPS is put in the data center, not in the cabinet. So it will always be, all the equipment on that InOne system will be redundant. And if you have a certain design case, please get in touch with us, and we will definitely give you a specific answer to your case. Okay, what kind of load can you reach? Kilometer. 1 kilometer, I cannot calculate it off my head, but maybe 200 to 300 watts. Don't quote me on that, but we can give you an exact estimate. I know that the maximum distance that we have for a normal camera with 18 watts is 7 kilometers. And we also have a cable that will double that distance. So we can give you precise answer. We can do it on the calculation tool and give you a precise answer if you tell us the exact load. Or if you want to know if the question is 1 kilometer, then we can make that calculation for you. But I think it is safe to say 200 watts. In a bus topology, what will happen if one of the cabinets become faulty? Okay, I'll move the camera again. And let's move here. Okay. This is a cabinet, and let's say this is a bus topology. So this is an incoming cable and one outgoing cable. So let's say what went wrong with this cabinet. If the cabinet is in the switch, if the fault is in the switch, okay, then the switch is connected in a ring topology, and the other devices that are after this cabinet will get the fiber fed from the other side. You can also connect the fiber in a star topology, because you have 24 fibers. So you can terminate 2 fibers here, then 2 different fibers on the other one. Then they will not get connected. They will not get any disconnection, even if you have a failure in the switch. If the failure is in the power board, or in the power rectifier, every cabinet that is connected after this cabinet will not be affected, because the power is looped at the input, not at the output. So let's say that this is totally off. This cabinet is totally off. The power, the outgoing power, is connected to the incoming power. So this is just, it's a mechanical connection on the input level. So it doesn't matter what is the fault in this card. It will not affect any cabinets. That's a very good question. Thank you. Is the power calculation tool available for clients? Yes, provided that you get a training. We'd like to engage with you. I mean, we have done the tool mostly for our use, but we have shared it in the past. If we make sure that that you are trained to do it, so you get the right results, then yes, absolutely, we can share the tool. It seems to me this is the last question. Is there anything else, Per, you would like to add before we conclude?
In talking about cable and duct, we can also deliver finish blowed cable into the duct.
Yes, as we have done with our recent project. Yeah. The customer did not want to blow the cables themselves, so Hexatronic Norway have blown the cable inside the duct. We also have possibility to do it in the factory if it's planned properly, and then you get the delivery, the duct inside the cable, so you just install the duct and you have everything done the first time. So that's a very good option. I think we received another question. Let me see if I can get it on the screen. What is the warranty period? Let me come back to you on that. Our warranty is a little bit different on the market, so I can try to answer you specifically on that when I don't know off my head all of that. On the fiber, what is it that we do, Per, on warranty on the fiber cable?
I'm not sure. It's 5 years.
It's multiple years.
It's multiple years.
Yeah, but I'll come back to you. From the industrial switch, of course, that is depending on the different brands. We deal with Corinex, and they give us 24 months on the industrial switch. On the cabinet, the power, I think we can provide 4 years. But on the cables and ducts, I have to come back to you on that.
Yes.
No, today we don't have any annual service or software assurance charges. Good, more questions are coming in. Is it possible to get some kind of feedback from the cabinet if there is a fault in one cabinet? We want to get them. Okay, that's a good question. We're working with a client right now. It's a security, it's a defense customer, that they wanted to get some sensors on the cabinet, intrusion sensors and door opening sensors and fault sensors. So we are working on that. The switch itself is quite smart, depending on the switch, that can provide some faults, but also some intrusion sensors. We presented actually a solution this week to this client that I mentioned. It seems now that this is the last one. So with this one, I'd like to thank you all. It's been an hour. So many of you, so many of you have stayed the full hour. Thank you so much. I'm really impressed. And please get in touch with us. Per is based in Oslo, and he's in the Norwegian market. Him and his colleague in Hexatronic Norway can assist you. We can also be of any support. Please get in touch with us. And the best thing actually is to give us a project example. If you have any project that you're working on right now, give us the specification, let us design it for you and see the value for yourself. I think that is the best option. I thank you all. Is there anything else you want to add, Per, or shall we conclude the session?
We can conclude it. Thank you very
much. All right.
Much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.